Hello, and welcome to the Escape the Corporate World Now Summit. I'm your host, Denise King, and today we have Melanie with us. Melanie is an experienced entrepreneur and freelance artist, and she's been doing that for over 20 years. So I wanted to welcome Melanie.
Hi.
Hi. So I wanted to bring Melanie on today to give you guys like a bird's eye view of what it's like to be an entrepreneur and the different roles that she's kind of had throughout the last 20 years. I know it's a long time, but she's been doing certain things for a big chunk of time. And to leverage that experience, especially for someone to see an artist, Melanie, I think it's really important for people to see people in different roles and different industries. And their experience there. And then Melanie has a new project going on called a co-working space. So she's going to talk about that too. So I'm super excited. Melanie, let's start with telling a little bit more about your background and what you've been doing as far as being your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. Well, actually, it started 36 years ago.
Man, you don't even look that old, girl.
I just celebrated my 56th birthday.
Oh, shnikes. No way.
I started back when I was 17 with my first business as a freelance graphic designer back in the early 80s. And I got that taste of entrepreneurship and never wanted to, go into the corporate world. So I'm one of those individuals that did everything I possibly could to never go into the corporate world. I mean, I think I could say I've kind of dipped my toe in it a little bit here and there, but quickly went back to, I can't do that. It's not for me. So I did that for 12 years. And then I ended up selling that business and ended up buying a rustic fishing resort up in the Cascade Mountains of Oregon.
Wow.
Of all things, I don't know what I was thinking at the time.
That sounds huge. Like, oh my God.
It was huge, but I was married to a man who that was one of his dreams. And I remember going up to the mountains and thinking, wow, this is like a piece of heaven. Could we actually do this? And we did. It took 8 months to negotiate the deal, but we bought ourselves a fishing resort and ran that for 11 years and raised our 4 kids there. And then we ended up getting divorced, unfortunately. And I moved back to Arizona, and I moved to Prescott, Arizona, and started my own fine art business, which is something I always wanted to do for a really long time. And I developed this big body of work and started getting into galleries and doing high-end art shows, art festivals. So I did that for a number of years until the economy went and nobody was buying paintings, fine art paintings for a while. So I was like, well, that's that. What am I going to do? And at that same time, my health took a dive from all the stress and everything, and my arthritis got really bad, and I couldn't use my hands anymore to paint. So I was like, I've got to change careers. I got to get out of art altogether. And I went back to school and became certified as a holistic health coach, and then started a private practice in doing that. And I've been doing that since 2010. And then working from home in my private practice has made me very lonely, which is what led me to what I'm doing now, which is opening a co-working space for independent workers like me and you. Yeah. So that's my background. That's my work history of self-employment.
That's awesome. So I cannot imagine opening up a whole resort. Like, that was super, super brave. Like, that I would love the idea, but then I think I would be like, oh my God, like, I don't know.
It was. I mean, the resort had been in existence since 1933, so it was an established business that we just bought and took over. But at the same time, it's like, I know nothing about fishing. I've never run a retail store before in my life. And all of a sudden, that's what I was doing and running. So we had a general store, 40 rental boats, 12 cabins, 4 yurts, and 100 campsites. It was an employee, we had a staff. So yeah, it was a big learning experience.
Wow. So as you think of over through the years, one of the things that I really found helpful was really figuring out my life purpose and vision. When do you think that became like most important, and how that got you to where you are?
Wow. That's a great question, because I had to look back at all the things that I've done in all the different careers that I've done in my life. And I think it takes that experience a lot of times to just, do things and look back and go, why did I make that choice? Why did I do graphic design work? Why did I take the risk and go open up, or start working with this fishing resort? Why did I go into finance? Why did I do all these things? What is driving me to do that? And when I finally started putting those puzzle pieces together, I realized that it all is tied back to something that happened to me when I was young.
Oh, wow.
When I was very young. And that was watching my mother work in a corporate job that she hated every day. Every day she would come home, and I was probably 8 years old. And she was a single mother at that point, and my father had passed away. She's raising 3 kids on her own. And of course, back then things were different. She didn't have the kind of choices that we have now. But it really impacted me, and I said, I never want to be that unhappy in a job. And I, at that young age, associated that with corporate world for some reason. So that was a huge driving factor to me to keep trying and taking risks and doing things that I love and want to try and want to do. And then the other thing that was a driver for me was that she lived in isolation. She would go to work, and then she would come home, and she didn't have a social life. And her social life was pretty non-existent. And I watched how that impacted her life in such a negative way, and which led to depression, which led to, a lot of mental health issues. And I realized that nowadays that it's a huge issue. And it continued those 2 things are the big drivers behind my purpose and what I do. So I don't know if I answered that question.
Yeah, totally. That was awesome. I interviewed a lady who is a story coach, and so she kind of helps people find that thread.
Yes.
And that's what it sounded like. So that's why I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. Because I never thought of it like that before.
Yeah. But I mean, the book that I wrote, about 5 years into my health coaching business, I ended up writing a book called Stretch Your Brave, Hack Your Story, which is it's hacking into your story, going into that, where did this all begin? How did I take this journey? Why did I take this journey? And it's a fun thing to do, to explore, and scary for a lot of people. It's very scary to go back there and see that a lot of what drives us comes from darkness sometimes. And we want to change that and make that light in our life. So it's...
Well, and sometimes I think you think, oh man, like, if you didn't have the downs, you wouldn't appreciate the ups. Like, there would be nothing relational to judge it on. So it's really interesting when you look at those times. And then lately I've been kind of looking at like, okay, these are the stories that I've been telling myself since I was, 12. Like, really, the 12-year-old is driving the bus of my life.
Yep.
Like, that's gotta stop.
It's true.
I told my mom that the other day. I'm like, except I said 5-year-old. The 5-year-old's driving the bus. Like, what the heck? Now I believe it's 12-year-old. I was, when all these things happened to kind of have me have this story. And it's like, oh, okay. And it only took me until I'm 43 to realize it, and I'm like, okay, at least I realized it now instead of when I was 80. So
True. But I think it's beautiful because along the way, you're still learning skills. You're still, everything that's been driving you and all the choices that you've made, the crazy journeys that you've taken, they're like, oh, that didn't work out. That was like, what was I thinking? But in every one of those, as they say, it's a stepping stone, and there's always something of use from that part of your journey, because all of it still applies to what I'm doing now, and it's good. Yeah.
So it's all stuff you needed to know to get to what you're creating now.
Exactly.
So how would you suggest, like, if someone like came to you and said, okay, I know I want to leave my job, but when people talk about what you're passionate about, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people in the corporate world that have been kind of in denial for so long. They've just been like, focused, get a job, make money. That's what I'm supposed to do. How would you help someone figure out what that thing is for them?
Yeah, that's that in and of itself is a journey of exploration, and I mean that's my personal experience of exploration around the things that are holding you back, those fears that you have, and whether that's fear of success, fear of failure, or it could be having a conversation with someone about and being really honest about how you've sabotaged those ideas and things because it's just too big and scary for you. So that was one of my things that I had to really explore, was how I was sabotaging myself and my dreams that are always kind of lingering back there. But I think what happens is it becomes bigger and more important than the money that I'm making over here, or the security that I have over here. And when it becomes bigger, when it's so nagging, like you can feel it in your gut, and you're going to work and you're going, every single day I'm feeling the same way, and it's driving my thoughts, my feelings, and my behaviors, right? So exploring your thoughts, your feelings, and behaviors is huge. And it's something that we just kind of take for granted. We don't really want to go there. It's too touchy-feely for me. I don't want to explore my thoughts and feelings.
I don't want to cry. That's what I'm like. I don't cry.
I'm an ugly crier.
I don't want to cry. I get mad when I cry.
Yeah. And yet it is the thing that helps you understand, what's holding you back. And so my journey took me to a series of self-improvement workshops where I got to dig in and explore and get those tough questions asked of me. And it's not, it's one of those things, well, answer the question. I'm not asking you in jest. I'm not, we need to know what's underneath there, and do some journaling, do some mapping, do some vision boards, do whatever it's going to take for you to dig in and find out, like, what's holding me back, and how has this, and why is this so big and important to me now? So, that's
going to take work, right? Like, I think people that okay, in my career, I've been fortunate enough to make the decisions where I chose what I was actually passionate about, and somehow was able to help people in everything I did. Because I love their story, and it's all about story for me. But that alone takes work, because you have to make that decision to not take a job just for money. And when I have done that, that's been like the worst thing I've ever done in my life. Literally fell asleep at my desk because it was such a boring job. I was running reports that took 30 minutes. Like, I just wanted to like shoot myself. It was horrible.
Like,
it was the worst thing I've ever. Yeah, like what was I doing? And you weren't supposed to talk. It was supposed to be quiet as a library, like me.
Oh.
So yeah, it was hilarious. Like I don't even know how I ended up in this place, but like the work, it's work. You to figure that out is work. Like to figure out how you're sabotaging yourself and how you're stopping yourself. But like that's where it's the most rewarding, because if you get yourself off that hamster wheel, you're not driving yourself crazy anymore, at least, you know?
Right.
And you know your stuff. Like if it's not going away, it's just going to keep coming until you deal with it anyway.
It's true. It's true. And I've also seen people who, it's like, the reason why you got hired at this corporate job is because you're really good. You've been trained, you've learned skills at something, and you got the job, you're getting paid big money. And you've got the security. And so, but at some point you're like, I'm working this hard for someone else. And maybe you're one of those who says, why can't I take this and do my own thing? I'm really good at it. I'm an expert at what I want to do. So I've seen people leave the corporate world and try and go off on their own. And then that ugly imposter syndrome kicks in and they start to do the self-doubt stuff, right? Like, I don't know if anybody's, now I'm on my own and I'm fully responsible for everything. And if this doesn't work, it's on me. And what if I'm not as good as I think I am, or if other people think I'm way better than I actually am. I mean, those thoughts just can really destroy your chances of success. So you really have to explore what is beneath those fears. What is beneath those fears so that you can put them in their place. I got this. I know what I'm doing. But at the same time, if you're trying to do it all on your own, that's another recipe for success. That's another way that people are sabotaging themselves without realizing it. You've got to be around other people who are doing what they're doing as well and learn from them. You don't go home and be by yourself, so to speak. Get out and meet with other business people. Talk with them.
Get out there.
Find out how they can help you out in your business. It's hugely important to be connected with other business people who are doing their own thing as well.
And I think, I don't know if you did this, but like, I think when I was first an entrepreneur, I tried to do everything, not just to save myself money, because I thought like I had to do it all by myself.
Yep.
I ran art stores and like, I did the emails, I taught the classes, I did the schedule, yes. I paid everyone. Like literally, when my accountant said something about learning to use QuickBooks, I was like, no, I'll pay you to do that. Like that was my breaking point of that's insanity. Stop the insanity. But like, it was just nuts. And I look back and I'm like, I think if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't appreciate a bookkeeper. And I don't care what I have to pay you. You do that because I hate QuickBooks. Like I'm very clear. I need a lawyer because they can save your butt. Like there's certain people that it's like, don't skimp on that, even though it may raise your overhead $1,000 a month. Yeah. You can be out doing what you're good at and making 10 times that if you just stay focused and do the work when you're supposed to be working.
And I think trusting that, having faith that other people who are expert in what they do, your accountant is the expert in that the return on your investment is actually going to pay off, right? Like having faith that that's going to pay off double, triple, whatever, and using someone else to step in that role and free you up to do what you are really good at. So I think, we have to take that risk and have faith that other people can help you reach that goal.
And I think that's hard sometimes. If you're an entrepreneur, a lot of times you're probably a control person where you really want, you left the corporate job because you wanted to make some kind of change in whatever they were doing. You didn't want it to be like that. But if you don't let go of some of it, oh my gosh, you're going to be exhausted.
Yeah, that goes back to the standard burnout. I mean, you only have so much bandwidth, that you can muster yourself. And before you break down physically, emotionally, mentally, I see people fall into depression because a lot of my health coach clients, they come to me because they've created this monster and they don't know how to get out of it now. Yeah.
Well, and we've been so brainwashed to think like, oh, we're supposed to work harder.
Right.
What? Oh, are you gonna, I mean, like what you gotta have downtime. You have to have that time off. Even as entrepreneurs, you can leave the corporate world and you can take and do the same thing to yourself that someone else did.
Exactly.
So it's not necessarily, I think, the corporate world that's sometimes a problem. It's that mentality of work harder, you have your degree, now go work really hard. And it's like, I would prefer to work smarter at this point in my life.
Yeah.
To maximize the time I do work and then have that fun time because it's where all the creative stuff is going to happen.
I think this makes me think of when I was running the resort and raising my children there at the same time.
Oh.
It wasn't until I decided to hire a nanny to come up there and be up at the resort with us. And my kids loved me a whole lot more.
You were probably way nicer.
And I was like, wow, that was one of the smartest decisions I made was for my relationships with, and my downtime that I needed. I needed to separate. I needed to quit work and go and be with my kids and create these healthy separations and balance in my life. I think entrepreneurs are notorious for being workaholics. That was one of the reasons why my stress and my arthritis kicked in, because I was a workaholic. I didn't know how to shut it off.
So what do you do now that's different that you didn't do back then?
One of the funniest things that I do is I have this really, really annoying quitting time alarm on my cell phone. Oh. I know it sounds really stupid and too simple, right? It's like it's too simple because I could ignore that. I could shut it off and ignore it and just keep working. So I did choose the most annoying sound that I could find on my phone for one. And I had to make a vow to myself to respect and honor myself and my boundaries. And, just like I tell my kids to be respectful of certain things, people and me and their employers or whatever it is that they're doing. It's like, shoot, I'm not even respecting myself. It's enough to honor a quitting time and to even recognize that by doing so, I will be able to work more productively the next day by having that downtime. We live with this fear like, I can't. I have so much on my to-do list, so much on my plate. I have to keep working, but we don't realize how our productivity just keeps going down and down and down. And it's like I could be sitting and staring at a, computer, not really doing anything for 10 minutes because I'm just not really all there anymore after a certain time of day. It's how productive am I actually being? So I had to learn how to just honor my boundaries and shut things down.
Do you think that was your biggest challenge, or what was your biggest challenge as far as entrepreneurship?
Oh, my biggest challenge as an entrepreneur. I think it wasn't that. I think it was more keeping myself from being isolated. Because, I mean, it's connected to the workaholic syndrome, right? I'm working all the time, and I'm not having a decent social life. I'm not having balance in my life, and I'm unhappy now. Where, what happened to the, happiness that I was looking for by staying out of the corporate world? Now I'm working for myself, and I'm not happy because I'm not setting healthy boundaries, and I don't have a social life. I don't have friends. I'm not going out and hiking and biking and doing the things I love to do. My business is running my life. I have to start honoring these boundaries. So I think, the fear of isolation was once again a big driver for me, and a big challenge to keep myself from falling into that. Okay. And thinking that I needed to just keep working. Yeah.
So what would you tell people that are like, they know they want to get out of the corporate world, but they feel stuck, more than likely in fear of something? What can you say that would help them kind of break out of that?
Oh, I think that goes back to exploring your why. Really knowing your why. And that is not an easy thing to do, to really dig into that. You know what? When I work with people who are trying to explore their why, they're pretty quick to come up with the pretty words, the pretty phrases, the things that they think other people want to hear. And that's usually the tagline that ends up going on the top of their website, is that pretty phrase. And that they think that's their why, but that's not their why. And I think when you understand what it is that keeps driving you, that big why, you have big whys and little whys. Like my big why always comes back to wanting to work happy. So do something I love and purposeful. And part of my big why is I want to connect people. I want to keep people from isolation and that kind of thing. But my little whys have more to do with, well, I want to be able to support my family. I want to do, I want to be able to do some of the things and travel and do, all these kind of things. Those are little whys. The bigger whys, and really understanding that, I think can help you get unstuck and become bigger and more important than the corporate security, So it's, once again, it's just doing some more of that emotional exploration. Yeah. I keep going back to that because I find people they think they know what it is they want to do, and they go into it without ever having done that work, and then they find themselves doing the sabotaging. So if you don't do that emotional work, you're going to have those big fails, so to speak, as they call them, fail and fail. And it's not really failure. It's just a stepping stone and learning and kind of that Groundhog's Day. I keep trying to do this thing, and why am I not learning? Why am I not learning?
Why do I keep doing the same thing in a different, different guise? It's like,
keep avoiding the thing that I'm really supposed to do. I really need to find out what's driving me.
And I think if people understood too, like, it is a path. It is not like this straight line of, oh, I'm meant to do this for the rest of my life. Like, you're on a journey. Yep. Give yourself the grace to move through it and understand you are learning, and I think that's the biggest thing too, is that the judging. Like, I know I listen to Gary Vee, and sometimes what he says is like, whose voice are you hearing? Like, who are you worried about explaining what you're doing to? And just stop worrying about them. I think for the longest time, especially when I was dating people, I would be like, okay, do I want to take this person home to meet my dad? Like that was the big thing. And then I was like, but I'm living with them. I don't care anymore. I'm happy. And I love this person. And who is my dad to know who's perfect for me? I mean, especially now I'm like, 43 and I've been longer on my own than at home. So it's like, I think I'm going to go with my gut and not worry about what's going to happen on Thanksgiving once a year.
It's so true. And you bring up a really good point, because when my health took a turn and I'm like, I got to get out, I got to change careers, and I want to go back to school, and I'm interested in becoming a health coach. But I was afraid of having that conversation with my husband, right? It's like, oh, I actually have to consider
Right.
his thoughts and stuff. And what I ended up doing is taking a self-improvement course with him. We both went through it at the same time, which is huge. I wish every couple in the world would do these kind of things together, because it opened that door for us to have that conversation where it's like, okay, babe, here's the deal. This is what I want to do. And I need to figure out how I can make that happen. So I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to go back to school, and I'm worth it. I deserve to do this thing and go explore this thing for my own, happiness and health. But having that conversation and feeling like, you have to get the approval of someone else, instead of me just saying, this is the thing I'm going to do. I need to do this. So I'm glad that he went through that with me, because then I learned things about him and some of the fears that he had. And it was great to have that conversation.
My boyfriend and I are going to do that in a month, and I'm so excited for him and just for us in general. I mean, we have a great relationship. We're best friends, and he's just one of the best men I've ever met. And so I'm excited for him to just see what I see, because I asked him one time, I'm like, what would you do? Like, if you were most happy, like, he loves sports. So I was like, his answer, I was like, oh, I really thought it would have something to do with sports. And then when he thought about it, I'm like, yeah, open your mind to the possibility of anything.
Of anything.
Yeah. And that's what I think is so exciting and terrifying about leaving the corporate world. Like, you could open your mind to anything, but really go back to, like, I wanted to do something that, yes, sometimes it's always going to feel like work at a certain point. But for the most part, really like when I get to interview people, it is so much fun that I'm like, yeah, I could do that for another 5 hours, So it's something like that where you don't feel drained at the end of the day. Like, oh my God, if I have to go talk on the phone to these people with this customer service, whatever, for any longer, I'm going to want to like kill someone, my boyfriend, myself, something's got to give. So I think that's the blessing and the curse of being an entrepreneur, and just being able to stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you realize that you need to move on, it's okay that you're doing this thing, because you can take everything you've learned and still incorporate it in your co-working space. So tell everyone a little bit about what you're doing now with your co-working space. And then we'll talk about the free gift.
Sure. So all of this independent work that I've done my whole life has driven me to this point of opening up a co-working space, which I love the idea of pulling independent workers who are working from home, cafes, libraries, hotels, wherever, and saying, let's come together and work and support one another, have a place that's designed, built for us to work and thrive and help our businesses grow. So co-working spaces it's a huge growing industry worldwide, and I feel really blessed that I'm able to bring that to the Prescott area here in Arizona, and because we have such a huge growing independent workforce here, it's just getting bigger every year. So I'm actually opening the space this next month, and people are signed up and ready to rock and roll and start working with each other, getting out of isolation, right? Big deal. It's a big deal to me. And I get to use all these skills that I've learned in all of these other businesses,
yeah,
are going to apply in this. So I'm really excited about it. A lot of other people are excited about it. And I'm telling you, if you are leaving the corporate world and starting your own business, go find the nearest co-working space and get involved in the community. And there's, if you're living in a bigger city, you have choices. I'm actually opening up the first co-working space in this area, but you have choices to find one that is a good fit for you. And
awesome.
Invest in that for your business and for your mental health, and it's a great accelerator for your business.
Awesome. Yeah. So then for people that are in the Prescott area, what are you giving away?
So people are
people that come there. Yeah, I guess they could come.
Yeah. So if they're here or if they're visiting here, I'm offering a free 5 days of co-working in April, 5 consecutive days. So they can come check it out, try it out, see what it's like. Is it a good fit? Do you like this concept of being around community? So yeah, you get to try it out for an entire week.
Oh, nice. Okay. Now, is that a drawing for one person to win that?
Oh, no.
Oh, nope. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So all they have to do, we'll put your website up and they just go to the website and they can get that. Okay. Awesome.
Exactly.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. I think you gave a lot of great insight into kind of that path that is now leading to the next project. And we're so excited for you. And I'm going to come visit because, then I don't have to do it by myself. And
that's great.
By my own little corner of the world. So thank you, Melanie, for being with us. And guys, tune in. We have a few days left of interviews. So check out the great advice. I think everyone's giving great gifts. We're getting great ideas and really strategies to help you kind of navigate out of the corporate world and into what you really are meant to be doing. So thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow.